All right, friends, greetings and welcome. The What's Right Show is on. I'm back in the saddle, behind the mic, and ready to go. Sam Mirejovsky here on the What's Right Media Network. Sam at what'srightshow.com is where you can reach me. At What's Right Sam on X, formerly known as Twitter. We've got so much to go over. So this will be an action-packed couple of hours. That much I can promise you. Now, local story here in Las Vegas that has spread across the country. And that's this sentencing here of these two monsters, Jesus Ayala, Jasmine Keys, who back in 2023, while filming themselves, mowed down two bicyclists, one of whom passed away. Former retired California police chief Andy Probst. They hit him intentionally. They hit him. They laughed on camera. The other person that they struck, who was an older guy, he survived the accident, the crash, the intentional crash. Anyway, they got up to life in prison. Ayala was 17 at the time. Keys was 16. We talked about this case extensively. Now, here's the issue. If there ever were two people deserving of the death penalty, it's these two. We've given up on the death penalty here in Nevada. We really have. This gets me. I like no other issue. I'm telling you. Yeah, the 17-year-old, absolutely. Yeah, done. I'm not going to play the video. It's just horrific. It's absolutely horrific. Cold-blooded murder. And now you and I here in Nevada and every other taxpayer in the state gets to pay for them to sit in prison. Makes me mad. Now, speaking of justice, or perhaps the lack thereof, have you been following these developments here? And Luigi Mangione. Mangione is the alleged killer of the United Healthcare CEO. Right? You know this guy. He's got a huge fan club. Everywhere he shows up, whenever he's in court, there are spectators, fans of his, that line the spectators gallery there in the courtroom. They're excited. They're happy to see him. This guy allegedly walks up behind Brian Thompson, the CEO of United Healthcare, and executed him in cold blood. And he has a fan club. Now, people have actually called for his release. Now, he had a court appearance. Now, this was, 2 days ago, I think, is when this appearance was. This is a routine appearance. He's there. A judge allowed him to not be in his prison uniform, so he's in civilian attire. He's wearing a jacket and a white shirt, no tie. And he was photographed by the media smiling. No, this was yesterday, Tuesday morning. Yet literally smiling. The guy, in all likelihood, right, killed somebody, and he's smiling in court. This just, my concern, actually, to be honest, is he's going to get away with it. My concern is when you look at this growing trend of political violence, and that's what this was about, right? This guy, this Brian Thompson guy, was a CEO, an evil CEO of a health insurance company. This guy denied people's coverage. This guy was a bad guy. I mean, this is, by the way, if you read the stuff online, there's an alarming number of people around that sympathize with this. Now, I'm not telling you that insurance people are good people, and gosh knows in my line of work, I fully understand that insurance companies can do quite some evil things. But we deal with it through lawsuits. We deal with it through the courts. If criminal law is violated, we refer it out to the district attorney or the attorney general. We don't walk up to people and kill them. Why is it okay suddenly to do this? We don't still know, as of this very moment, what actually went down over at Brown University. And this is another horrific story that I've been following very closely because I mean, this is two people are dead there. And it seems that the first person shot was a young lady who was the vice president of the College Republicans. And people there swear up and down that she was targeted. Some have said that the shooter yelled, Allah Akbar. I don't know. The police are not saying anything. In fact, the police aren't doing the whole story is just bananas. They can't find the guy walks onto a college campus, a prestigious university, Brown University in Rhode Island. This is a Ivy League school. You would think, basically in terms of prestige, one of the best in the country, certainly not lacking in any funds. They don't have any working cameras. They don't have any security. They don't have cops on campus. What the hell's going on here? How does this guy walk into a classroom, kill two people, and leave? And my spidey sense in this is telling me this police know and the university knows a lot more about what's going on here than they're letting on. And I suspect they're really just freaking out over the blowback here because there's going to be a political angle to it. Again, we'll know more as time goes on. But I know this. I've encountered this. How many times must we listen to people say Charlie Kirk got what he deserved? The number one, I was thinking about this just the other day. The number one thing, even people here, we got this guy here in Las Vegas, this influencer guy who put all over his social media, he got a huge amount of followers, that Charlie Kirk deserved to die because he's a vile racist. And literally, this, I've argued with a few people about this. They always come back to the airline pilot thing. That was correct. Charlie Kirk said, I forget what the exact quote was, but I'm a little worried about black pilots for African-American pilots, whatever it was that he said. And that's now we understand that quote was in the context of a DEI conversation, an affirmative action conversation. I've mentioned myself here many times on air. There's two airplanes. They're both leaving at the same time. They're both going to the same place. Airplane number one, they hired the best pilots they can find. They didn't look at race. In fact, race was a non-factor. Second airplane, they're hiring based on race. They're hiring based on diversity quotas. Which plane do you want to get on? It's nothing to do with race. It has everything to do about the basis of qualifying somebody for an important life and death job. That's it. Charlie Kirk said this, and all of a sudden he deserves to die for it. Is that where we are at? I'll go back to what I said in the wake of Kirk's assassination. We've gotten to a point where they've run out of words. They don't have anything to say. They don't have arguments to make. They just use bullets. That's where it is. Of course, we have the Bondi Beach attack, the Australia attack. Australia, a country that has bent over backwards to be woke, where the government has spent, I don't know how much time and money to fight, quote unquote, Islamophobia, just as the country delves further and further into anti-Semitism. Attacks on Jews have become commonplace. And the attack that occurred on the people celebrating Hanukkah is just all foreseeable, entirely foreseeable. And I know that the government, I understand that the Australian government's come out and said all sorts of nice platitudes like this is a horrific attack and our thoughts and prayers and this is unacceptable. This kind of hatred has no place in our society, but actions speak louder than words. The entire Free Palestine movement is built on lies. But it's been used to validate violence. And the entire purpose behind this is to bring down our world as we know it, to bring down Western civilization, to bring down order in our society. And the left has become a chaos agent, a real chaos agent, where they embrace violence. They release the criminals. They take the side of the killers. As long as those people who are perpetrating those crimes, who are perpetrating that violence, are helping the cause of the left. This is all going to, I think, not have a very happy ending, to say the least. Sam Mirejovsky here behind the What's Right microphone. Folks, don't go anywhere. More of the What's Right show up next.
The Sam and Ash team, they wanted me to have the best care. They had my interests at heart. I have an enormous amount of gratitude. I cannot say enough thank you.
Hi, Sam Mirejovsky here. A word about Sam and Ash injury law. You get into an accident, you get hurt, something happens. And all of a sudden, you're in for a surprise. Not only are you not feeling your best, not only is it's a car accident, your car might be out of commission. All of a sudden, you're facing a barrage of paperwork, of questions, of decisions. It's time out of your day. It's time you don't have. You've got a job, you've got family, obligations, things that you do. So what you need is somebody to help you through it. You need somebody to not just handle the paperwork, but also make sure that you do everything right. So at the end of the case, because sometimes what happens when people try to handle things on their own, you don't get stuck with thousands of dollars that you need to pay out of your pocket. Yes, even when an accident is not your fault, you can end up upside down. And that's a huge problem. Well, I'm just telling you, it would be for me, it would be for any person. So don't get stuck getting screwed, all right? Call Sam and Ash Injury Law today. Sam and Ash, we handle all of the phone calls, all of the emails, all of the information that needs to go to the insurance company, which is, of course, time back into your life that you wouldn't otherwise have, and make sure that everything gets done right so you end up on the right side of the equation. Sam and Ash Injury Law, 702. Well, I'll give the toll-free number, 1-800-304-2000. That's for either office, California or Nevada. 800-304-2000. Sam and Ash Injury Law, samandashlaw.com, or visit that website, or call again 1-800-304-2000, because you deserve what's right. See, Robbie, this is what happens when I don't do the show for a few days. I get rusty. All right, Sam Mirejovsky here. I'm going to don't worry. Robbie's looking at me like, what the hell is Sam doing? Okay. Yeah. Do you know that during the attack in Sydney, in Bondi Beach, in Australia, you know during the attack that the cops hid during the shooting? Like, there was some guy who disarmed one of the shooters with his bare hands, while police officers who were armed were hiding behind a car. You know, this is maddening. There are two survivors of the shooting that were interviewed, and it's actually difficult to listen to, honestly. Vanessa Miller is the woman speaking. She went on a Australian news show, the Aaron Molan show, and Molan used to be with Sky News. And here, here's now she's there with her husband Wayne Miller. But here's what Vanessa Miller says about what she witnessed. I mean, just imagine you are her. Imagine yourself in this poor woman's shoes.
These police officers were hiding behind a car. I tried to grab one of their guns. One of the other one grabs and he says, "No, I'm trying to grab for his gun." These men, these police officers, they know who I am, and I hope they're hearing this. You are weak. You could have saved so many more people's lives. They were just standing there, listening and watching this all happen, holding me back. 2 police officers. Where were the others? Not there. Nobody was there. Everyone, the public, helped. Nobody else. My little 3-year-old was saved by a pregnant woman who saw her crying and screaming, "Mummy, Daddy." We were there. There was not. Do you know how long did it take for police to come? How long did it take?
It was just...
No, everyone was too scared.
This is astonishing. Now, do you know why this really just absolutely gets me? So, I mean, look at the timeline of the attack, right? This happened on Sunday, on the 14th. It starts just before 7 o'clock, 6:47. There's a Hanukkah by the sea, a Hanukkah celebration. This is near a place called Archer Park. About 1,000 people in attendance. Now, what's the critical thing that we know about this event? It was scheduled, right? This wasn't an impromptu gathering where some family got together on the beach and, threw out a blanket. This was an organized event. Presumably, they'd have to get, and I think they did, get a permit for this. And they're there celebrating. So the police, the government, right, the city officials have notice of this. And then, of course, the father-son duo, Sajid Akram and his son Naveed Akram. They fired more than 100 rounds into the crowd. They got on this footbridge. You've seen the videos. It's horrifying. Bystanders tried to disarm the attackers. A lot of people fled. There was a guy that actually intervened, brave guy. 15 people at least were killed from 10 to 87. Now, how much anti-Semitism has there been in Australia? These people know they've got a big problem. October 7 happened, and following this, there were large Muslim gatherings in Australia where they were chanting "Gas the Jews" and all this horrific stuff. There's a council, I guess, in Australia that follows anti-Semitism. And they say that these anti-Semitic incidents in Australia are at historically high levels, almost 5 times the average number before October 7th. In May of last year, anti-Semitic graffiti was found at a Jewish school. "Jew die" was spray painted. October of that year, a Jewish bakery was defaced. There was an arson. There's a kosher deli attack. There's a rampage in a Jewish community, a suburb of Sydney. There's a synagogue arson. Hitler graffiti earlier this year, a synagogue vandalized. It just keeps going and going and going. And the cops knew this. But they're more concerned about Islamophobia. They would have to admit they've got a problem with Islamists in their country, that their entire multicultural utopian dream is a bunch of bunk. So they didn't staff it with enough police, and the police were there. hid behind cars and let the civilians do the work. Shameful. Be right back, folks. Don't go anywhere. Rarely wrong, always right. Sam Mirejovsky here behind the What's Right microphone. Friends, I'm going to get to the Reiner, horrific Reiner killing in a bit. I'll get to it, I think, at the top of the hour. I have a lot of thoughts, including thoughts on Trump's comment, his post on Truth Social that got certainly a lot of pushback. So we'll get to that at the top of the hour. Biden Trump has really outdone himself. Have you seen his presidential walk of fame? You know, the pictures that he has up of all the presidents, and it's in the walkway that leads alongside the Rose Garden, leads to the Oval. It's the colonnade, right? You got the little covered walkway there, and it's where oftentimes the president will walk with foreign visitors and other dignitaries. There's pictures of all the presidents. Well, he's added little plaques under each of the portraits. Yes, this is where there is not a picture of Joe Biden. There's a picture of the auto pen machine. Barack Obama's got 2 plaques. I don't know. Maybe there's a maximum of how much you can put on a single plaque. I don't know why it's 2, but it is. I saw the picture of the plaque. But here's what it reads. Are you ready for this? God. The left is having a meltdown over this, folks. Quote, this is under Barack's picture, all right? Barack Hussein Obama was the first black president. And a community organizer, one-term senator from Illinois, and one of the most divisive political figures in American history. As president, he passed a highly ineffective, unaffordable, in quotes, unaffordable Care Act, resulting in his party losing control of both houses of Congress and the election of the largest House Republican majority since 1946. He presided over a stagnant economy, approved the terrible Iran nuclear deal, and signed the one-sided Paris Climate Accords, both of which were later terminated by President Donald J. Trump. Next paragraph here. I think this is rolling over onto the next plaque. Under Obama, the ISIS caliphate spread across the Middle East, Libya collapsed into the chaos, and Russia invaded and took Crimea. He crippled small businesses with crushing regulation and environmental red tape, devastated American coal miners, and weaponized the IRS and the federal bureaucracies against his political opponents. Obama also spied on the 2016 presidential campaign of Donald J. Trump and presided over the creation of Russia hoax, the worst political scandal in American history. Listen. Oh, wait. There's one more line. This is all on the plaque. This is on the wall of the what now the Presidential Hall of Fame at the White House. The last line of it is this. His handpicked successor, Hillary Rodham Clinton, would then lose the presidency to Donald J. Trump. Okay, I'm dead, as the kids say. No, I mean, I love this. I love when he trolls. Trump is a troll. He does this, and it's going to wind everybody up. Now, well, how much of this is wrong? That's a better way of putting it. By the way, when we talk about the Obamacare, The healthcare subsidies, one of the things right now, everybody's clamoring to get the subsidies redone before the end of the year. I'm like, guys, you're missing the room. Republicans, can you please, for all that is good out there, not spend a penny of our money subsidizing the failure that is the Affordable Care Act? The ACA ought to be defunded, actually, quite opposite. It ought to be defunded or repealed, just repeal it. But you could also just defund it by virtue of through appropriations and then start over. The market can fix this. People cannot afford this because the market has been removed from the equation. So Republicans here need to deliver a market-oriented plan, but instead, Republicans today were giddy at the White House putting up a statue. I saw this happening. And I, as I sometimes will, put up a hot take. A hot take on the internet is where you just put your first thought that comes to your mind, right? Don't put a lot of thought into it. It could end up being wrong. You just put it up there because it's just a quick reaction. My reaction to, they put up a civil rights icon statue, Barbara Rose Johns. This was replacing the Robert E. Lee statue that they had put up earlier. Why the hell are they doing this? I'm not debating the merits of who Johns was or wasn't. We went through, let me frame this. We went through a period of 4 years under Biden, where across the country, Maoist fervor struck the Democrats and they started removing statues, and not just of Confederate guys. Okay, we can have that debate. They were removing statues of our founding fathers. And of course, the pretext for this is that these people were slave owners. That's all they teach about the founders of this great country. What do you know about George Washington? Well, look, if you go to public school somewhere in a blue city, blue state, you likely only know that George Washington owned slaves. And I think Elon Musk just the other day was talking about this. Friend of his, kids in the San Francisco school district had this exact lament. So the point is, do the Republicans want to lose? My hot take this morning, my direct response to this is that the Republicans are going to lose the midterms. Why? Because instead of fixing the ACA, they're participating in this history erasing of our country, in this wokeifying of our country. They are validating what the Democrats did in erasing our nation's history. And the Civil War, folks, you study it and you realize it was brother on brother violence. And healing our country after the Civil War was one of the great miracles of the American nation. It's one of the great stories in our nation's history. And what did that mean? That meant that people up from the North, avowed enemies of the people in the South, occasionally had a compromise and recognized that the Southerners had their heroes. This is not a popular thing to say right now. Go to a group of Democrats and talk about this. It's not going to be pretty. But you have, and this is what I would tell our woke friends on the left, you have no idea what it took to get the country out of the end of and the rebuilding of America post Civil War. It's horrific. And we did it. So Anyway, so here are the Republicans. Oh, yay, clapping. Some woman nobody's ever heard of now has a statue in the Capitol. But the stuff that we actually want Republicans to do, like perhaps fix healthcare, gosh forbid, that's not getting done. It's completely maddening. So, okay, I know, and I'm gonna. Speaking of, I have my thoughts on the Vanity Fair piece. This just is the dumbest thing that the administration has done since Pam Bondi's Binders of Epstein. Sam Mirejovsky here, the What's Right show brought to you by Sam and Ash Injury Law. In a crash, call Sam and Ash 702-820-1234 in Las Vegas, 800-304-2000 in Vegas and California. Be right back, folks. Don't go anywhere. Hi, Sam Mirejovsky here. Yes. So much today to cover. Forgive me, folks, for being out of the studio here for the past few days. A little bit of travel, had some work obligations, and so was away from the What's Right microphone. But I'm back now. Sam@whatsrightshow.com is my email. Trump had a Hanukkah celebration at the White House. Yes, I mean, it was great. Miriam Adelson was there. She told, but what Trump was, I think, kidding. Trump keeps bringing up running for a third term. He's going to run for a third term. And Miriam Adelson said, if you do that, I'll give you another $250 million. Well, that's, that's nice incentive money there. Now, I didn't go. But my good friend Matt Brooks did. Said it was a great party. And Matt even got a presidential shout out from none other than DJT himself. Here's how that went down.
CEO of the Republican Jewish Coalition, Matt Brooks. He says Trump is the greatest president we've ever had, so I like him. I'll take Matt any day. Thank you, Matt.
All right, I was kidding. I said, Matt, it's going to be your cell phone ring now. Oh, he's so proud of himself. Well, you get Trump to, give you a little shout out on national TV. I mean, it's not for nothing. There it is. Now, okay. Yeah, the Vanity Fair. Robbie, do I get to this now? I'm just going to do it. I don't know whose idea this was. I don't know who thought it would be a great idea to talk to Vanity Fair. Not once, not twice, but like a gazillion times. Do you know what this is all about? So there's a part 1 and part 2. This is a Vanity Fair piece written on the Trump team, and most of the conversations are with Susie Wiles. Who is Susie Wiles? Well, she is Trump's Iron Lady chief of staff. She's a great human being. Okay? I can tell you that. Susie is the best thing that has ever happened to Trump politically. Trump has great political instincts. He's a great communicator. He has, just an unbelievable amount of energy. I don't have to tell you this, but he needs somebody to mind the store, right? He needs somebody to keep the operation on the rails. He's not a detail guy when it comes to running business day to day. And the difference between Trump 1.0, Trump's first term in office, and this one is significant, right? Because the second term is much more organized and put together. Now, Wiles has been talking to Vanity Fair, and I don't think a lot of people realizes that these were a series of conversations that were sort of serialized, but into one, or actually two pieces that were published separately. Part 1 and part 2, aptly named. And, Susie Wiles she's not a MAGA person, right? She's just an old school Republican operative, but she's loyal to Trump. Anyway, I read the piece. I read it twice, in fact. Got up early this morning and put on my reading glasses. I just just started going through this thing. And here's my take. I know when she said Trump has an alcoholic personality or an alcoholic's personality, I know what she means. In context, she goes, boy, he just thinks he's whatever he puts his mind to is going to happen. He just thinks he can achieve anything. And he's got that alcoholic's personality, almost like, I understand it's a turn of phrase, but they cut it out and then they just use those 5 words, in the sentence and attribute it. Did she say it? Yes, of course. Are they twisting her words? Are they misrepresenting her words? Yeah, duh. Of course they are. And it's one example of many where I go, whose genius idea was it to talk to Vanity Fair? To talk to people that are absolute left-wing, nut jobs that hate you. Why are you trying to persuade these people? What's the upside? That they're going to bring their fancy photographer and take stupid pictures of you in the White House? Ay, 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 ay. The picture. Well, I know Vanity Fair is quick to remind us that they have done profiles on a number of leaders, including Republicans like George W. Bush. They talk about the Clintons. They've gone in with the Clintons all the way back to Reagan, of course. But what they don't mention is that they do puff pieces on libs, and then they go to town with a cleaver, with a meat hatchet on Republicans. And that's exactly what happened here. Now, I have another thing for you. And there is a point in the piece. There's a point in the article where they're talking about the Doge effect, right? They're talking about Elon Musk doging agencies. And one of the agencies that they're talking about is, let me see if I've got the sentence here. I got the exact language. Because it's, I'm going through it here, folks. Just sorry, so much today to, well, yeah, of course. And now I can't find it. But I'll find, you know what? I'm going to get to this next hour. That's what I'm going to do, Rob, because my sense from this is twofold. Number one, Trump still at the end of the day is a TV guy, is old school TV guy. He wants to be famous, actually wants to ingratiate himself with the legacy media. As much as Trump embraced independent media during the 2024 election in particular and won, he still has this, this fascination with the legacy outlets. Look at. I mean, if you were Trump, would you ever sit down with 60 Minutes? What's the upside? They're going to cut you up and misconstrue what you say. Literally 60 Minutes did the most creative editing job in media history to make Kamala Harris sound somewhat competent. But then when it came to Trump, basically sabotaged him. No, this is just what they did. I mean, it's a fact. I've got the quote here now. This is what Wiles said. This is about USAID. This is her quote from the Vanity Fair story. And I'm going to take Vanity Fair at least at their word here that this is not made up. This is what she said. Elon's attitude is you have to get it done fast. If you're an incrementalist, you just won't get your rocket to the moon, Wiles said. And so, with that attitude, you're going to break some China. But no rational person could think the USAID process was a good one. Nobody. That's what Wiles said. Now, I'm guessing you and I, and most other people that voted for Trump, didn't vote for anything incremental, okay? The big if is if you're an incrementalist. We didn't vote for incrementalism. We voted for save our country as fast as you possibly can. Today, yesterday, preferably. So there's still people there. That's my point with this Vanity Fair piece. There are people inside the administration that are pulling Trump back. All right, be right back, folks. Don't go anywhere. Folks, I think it's actually the conventional thinking that's coming out of this Vanity Fair piece. Susie Wiles, who is Trump's chief of staff, of course, embroiled in this. I'm going to call it a scandal. The scandal of just talking to these idiots at Vanity Fair. Sam Mirejovsky behind the What's Right microphone, folks. Welcome to the program. I was reading it here during the break again and reminding myself of some of these passages. USAID, okay? It almost is as if Wiles is gushing to the mainstream media, to these Vanity Fair writers, that she called Elon Musk on the carpet when he went to close USAID, shutter it. Quote, you can't just lock people out of their offices. Wiles, at first, the article goes on, didn't grasp the effects that slashing USAID programs would have on humanitarian aid. Quote, I didn't know a lot about the extent of their grant making. But with immunizations halted in Africa, lives would be lost. Soon she was getting frantic calls from relief agency heads and former government officials with the dire message. Thousands of lives were in the balance. Now, notice what they did. They just have one quote from her, right? They have one quote from her. You can't just lock people out of their offices. And then they have a second quote. I didn't know a lot about the extent of their grant making, referring to USAID. And then these ghoulish reporters surround it with their own opinions. Oh, lives would be lost. Frantic calls. Thousands of lives were hanging in the balance. No, it was a giant freaking scam where tax dollars were funneled off to various Democratic pet projects and to friends, certainly, of the writers at Vanity Fair. There's a hilarious part about this. I guess George Bush, W, got his panties in a twist over this. That when Trump gutted emergency plan for AIDS relief, PEPFAR is what it's called. It was a $15 billion plan launched by Bush. See, this is, Republicans just love to give away our money. I mean, the Democrats do it too, but the Republicans always participated in this. You know, they have a Bill Gates quote in here, right? So anyway, Bush, this is what the piece says. Bush himself had gotten wind of gutting PEPFAR, called Rubio to express alarm. Quote, he had been appalled by Trump from the beginning and he's determined not to weigh in, the aide said. Unnamed aide. But Musk's attack on one of his legacy achievements was too much. Bush said that the person, quote, cares deeply about the PEPFAR program. Oh, my gosh. I think the point is that Americans, we have had it up to our gills paying for all sorts of programs. I understand, okay, but why is China not paying for it? Why is India not paying for it? What happened? What about Canada? Why are we the only people that are doing this? Why are we the idiots going around the world and spending money? And the simple reason is this really isn't about helping people. It's about creating untraceable cash, essentially, that is funneled back into the Democratic Party machine. And some Republicans, of course, benefit from it along the way as well. And those are the Republicans that end up being on very friendly terms with Democrats. They're all part of the same scam. So this thing is difficult to read, and it's horrific. It's like watching this slow-moving car wreck, and I'm talking about the Vanity Fair piece, that this never should have been given. I put up on X, you can see it if you go to Twitter, go to X, and look me up at What's Right Sam. I just posted a picture before we went on air of the sort of the group photo of all the people that they interviewed and talked about. And look, I don't know how to put this other than it's not a flattering picture. Susie Wiles is a middle-aged, older lady who is attractive. She's a good-looking woman. Robbie, yes, fair. I mean, good-looking kind of, yeah, she's a good-looking lady. It does not look good in this picture. She looks like she's about to put the hex on you. Everybody here, I guess they told them, look powerful. And they all pose for Vanity Fair. If I was in politics, I'm just telling you this flat out right now. If I was in politics, and I'm not going to be, let me just dispel those. I'm not doing that. I mean, if they need me to come in and be the dictator of the Czech Republic, I'll consider circumstance. But I'll tell you one thing for damn sure. Vanity Fair, who else? Anybody, basically. We'd like you to pose for a picture. Yeah, get lost. Oh, I'd like to interview you. I learned my lesson many, many, many years ago. I had this license plate in California when I was like 20, 21. It was Bush years. Remember the plate, Robbie? Mr. GOP. And it got some attention around Orange County. And some reporter called me up to do a little interview on me. And I was like, okay, well, I'll answer it. I mean, I was nobody, then. I'll answer it, whatever. I'll tell you who I am. And the whole piece was nasty. It was nasty. The guy it was an early lesson to me that the media suck, okay? And that you can give them an exact quote and say, that's all I'm giving you to print. And they'll find a way to put it and surround it with their language that it is very much your quote, but present it in a way that makes its meaning completely opposite. If they like you, they'll be nice. If they don't like you, they won't be. If the Democrats, if Vanity Fair, if the photographer at Vanity Fair, the publisher at Vanity Fair, printed a photograph like this of the Obama administration, they would be relegated to doing school photography in Tulsa, Oklahoma after this, all right? That's the career trajectory they would take. If they made Obama, Valerie, Jarrett, whoever from the Obama team look like this, it would have been curtains. All right, I'm gonna talk about Rob Reiner. It is such a sad story. I'm going to give it to you. I'm going to tell you the good, bad, and the ugly. I'm going to tell you exactly what Trump should have written. Because here's a spoiler. I don't think it was the right thing. Okay? And I said so at the time. Mirejovsky here behind the What's Right microphone. Back in a jiff. Don't go anywhere, folks. More of the What's Right show brought to you by Sam and Ash. Injury Law up next.
The Sam and Ash team, they wanted me to have the best care. They had my interests at heart. I have an enormous amount of gratitude. I cannot say enough thank you.
All right, folks, I'm back behind the What's Right microphone. Sam Mirejovsky, your host, faithful servant here Monday through Friday for these couple hours that we have together. Okay. The Reiner murder, it's absolutely horrifying. Rob Reiner, his wife, Michelle Singer. By the way, speaking of photography, I think Michelle Singer was a famous photographer who at one point had taken the picture of Trump that he used in one of his books. Robbie, can you look that up? Make sure I'm not misleading anybody, but that was an interesting Trump connection. At any rate, over the weekend, on Sunday, bodies of Rob Reiner and his wife, Michelle, were discovered at their Brentwood, California home. Brentwood seems to be the place where you get your throat slashed. That's not just an OJ reference, but seems like a lot of prominent cases happen in and around that area. It's a part of Westwood, or West LA, I should say, that's off the 405 freeway. You take Wilshire and go towards the ocean, you're going to hit Brentwood. Turns out very quickly it's his son. Now, I started telling Alan this. I was on with Alan Stock this morning, and the son was an addict. The son was an addict. And I guess he got himself into drugs at an early age. I heard some friend of Reiner's describe a time that Reiner confronted his son, and when he was 16 years old, he found some drugs on him. Now, here's the problem with addicts. They're dangerous. You know, and depending on the addiction, right? There's different types of addictions, right? Different substances, but you know, they're sociopaths. They become sociopathic. And I shared this with Alan, and you know, he knows the story in greater detail. All I'm going to say about it, there was a time in my life where I had my life somewhat intertwined with someone that obviously had an addiction, and that got to a state where they were no longer the least bit reasonable. And at great expense to me, I had to separate from this person. And it was a financial loss, but I had to do it for my safety and the safety of my family. People like this are dangerous now. And this is all, I'm setting this up because there are so many things that Trump could have written here. And I don't know what he wrote was kind of nutty, but I'll get to that in a second. Look, when it's your child, when you're the parent of an addict, it's easy if the person's your business partner, your friend, your landlord, an ex. You can cut somebody like that out of your life, even if maybe you have, a lot in common. It's impossible. Well, not impossible, but it's very, very difficult if you're a normal human being to cut off your kid. The tragedy of the story is that Reiner and his wife kept helping their kid out. And I don't know what I would do. I'd love to tell you that tough love, doing things differently. I hope none of my kids ever struggle with something like this, because it's horrifying. Did the guy do it? I mean, certainly seems to be the case. These are allegations. He's got a lawyer. I saw somewhere, Alan Jackson is his lawyer. Do you see this? Nick Reiner, the son, obviously got arrested, been charged, appeared in court today. He's got a high-profile attorney. I don't know who's paying for it, right? Alan Jackson is not cheap. By the way, I was reading in the New York Post about this morning, and it was a typo. They had it Elena Jackson. They put an A on it, like feminized Alan. I blinked a couple times. I go, boy, things just move fast out in California, Robbie. I confirmed that Alan is still an Alan. He's a very famous criminal defense attorney. Used to be a DA in California. You might remember him from the Phil Spector trial. Alan Jackson was the prosecutor of Phil Spector. He got the murder charge on Spector. Lena Clarkson, right? The whole crazy story at the gun and, weird date gone wrong. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't know who's paying for it. This whole thing to me is tragic. Now, what we have to understand about who Rob Reiner was. Now, phenomenally talented guy. I love some of his movies. Princess Bride is a classic. Can we agree? A guy, talented, long career. His dad, Carl Reiner, also a tremendously talented guy. Rob Reiner was obsessed with Trump. Obsessed. And he went beyond just being a concerned citizen, fighting the good fight against Trump. I mean, he put together a documentary pushing the Trump-Russia collusion hoax. He was friends with Brennan and a whole bunch of CIA directors and people in the government. I mean, Reiner went to town on Trump. And okay, here's what Trump wrote, and I'm setting the stage. Here's the Trump truth tweet that sent everybody up in a tizzy. Quote, a very sad thing happened last night in Hollywood. Rob Reiner, a tortured and struggling but once very talented movie director and comedy star, has passed away together with his wife, Michelle, reportedly due to the anger he caused others through his massive, unyielding, and incurable affliction with a mind-crippling disease known as Trump derangement syndrome, sometimes referred to TDS. That's the first sentence of this. My gosh, what the flip is what I thought to myself. Rob Reiner, I'll tell you this, flat out. Whatever his politics were, Rob Reiner died because he couldn't cut his son out of his life. I'm a father of 3 kids. I find that relatable. That's it. Trump has kids. I'm sure they always have not been perfect. He could have said something about that. Trump is a man who loves his kids. If you know Trump, you know this about him. He loves his kids. Could have led with that. Here's the second part of this. This is the second sentence. This whole thing was just 2 sentences. He, quote, was known to have driven people crazy, all caps, by his raging obsession of President Donald J. Trump, with his obvious paranoia reaching new heights. As the Trump administration surpassed all goals and expectations of greatness, and with the golden age of America upon us, perhaps like never before. Oh, yeah, and there's a third sentence. May Rob and Michelle rest in peace. It just doesn't serve any purpose. So, that's it. I don't think this was worth writing. I think there's about 1 million other things he could have written. And none of this is about politics. Somebody gets not, and I say this as somebody who has a political show. Not everything it has a political angle to it. But one thing that I will say in Trump's defense is, imagine that there's a guy out there who the world knows as a director and, a political, irredeemable leftist, right? But to Donald Trump, this is a guy who has gone after you with lies and propaganda. So I get it. I get that Trump doesn't like Reiner. But this is the moment to just, hey, this is horrible. RIP. Or, what? There's another possibility here too, Robbie, which I, dare I present this. You don't say anything at all. I don't know. That's always an option. But do you know what I think today? And I'm only bringing this up today because I wasn't here yesterday. But after today, I'm done talking about it because people have said about Trump way worse things. And when Trump, inevitably, we're all destined to pass on and leave the mortal sphere. When it happens to Trump, people are the same people that are criticizing him today are going to write nasty things about him. So I'm over it already. But I just don't think that this thing was a good idea. Just as I don't think the Vanity Fair piece, submitting to countless interviews with Vanity Fair writers, was a good idea. Okay. There we go. By the way, they're talking, this is my favorite thing, gun control. Brown University, Bondi Beach, the shooting there, gun control. This is it. I've got some thoughts on this. Don't go anywhere, folks. Be back in just a few minutes. Sam Mirejovsky here on the What's Right Media Network. Sam Mirejovsky here, Nevada's favorite recovering Californian. Yes, that's me. I was in the Czech Republic over the weekend. And can I tell you what I was struck by, Robbie? I don't go enough at Christmas time. Number one, I need to do this every year. The Christmas markets in Prague were unbelievable. And if you follow me on Instagram, where I put up more pictures on Instagram, I don't get into too much political stuff. If you follow me on Instagram, at What's Right Sam on Instagram, you saw my story that I put up where I was Saturday night. I was in the main square there, Old Town Square in Prague. Huge tree, right? A bunch of little Christmas stands, music playing, lights. It was 5 o'clock. It was already dark in the evening. I've never seen so many people in my life. I had to back out of there. At one point, I had to step backwards because if I couldn't move forwards. There were so many people. And why? I'll tell you why. As I shuffled my way back out of the crowd, I heard all sorts of languages. Well, I heard a lot of Czech, but I heard German, I heard Italian, I heard French. There are countries across Western Europe that have basically given in to the invaders. They've given in to the so-called refugees that have, come into their countries and have wreaked havoc. Every year, how many attacks on Christmas markets do you hear of? And then what happens? Instead of, rounding these people up, closing the problematic mosques and the Islamic centers that spew this kind of violent hatred, what do? They shutter the Christmas markets. They mute Christmas. Because I guess the host country needs to be compassionate. Can't be Islamophobic. We got to be, we got to be accommodating to the newcomers. And so all these Western Europeans were dying to have Christmas, the way they remember it when they were kids. They come to Prague. They go to Poland. They go to Hungary. It made me sad. Now, I loved the fact that, Prague had it and that it was as popular as it was. That just made me sad for the rest of Europe. And this is what infuriates me about the attack in Australia. Remember, I went last hour, I started talking to you about some of the attacks that have happened on Jews, on Jewish people in Israel, the anti-Semitic attacks, in Australia. Listen, it's astonishing. There was, just in July, there was an arson attack on Shabbat. There were 20 worshipers at a Shabbat dinner in Melbourne, Australia. They had to evacuate because the whole place went on fire. There were nurses at a hospital in Sydney that were suspended after threatening Jewish patients. That happened in February of this year. A child care center was vandalized. F the Jews was written on the walls. January 2025, now almost a year ago, The New South Wales Prime Minister, or Premier, Chris Minns, announced that they were going to have a bunch of tough hate crime and anti-protest laws. Okay? Nice. That's it. And yet they've got all these radical Islamic centers like the place that was attended by this father-son team that then committed this terroristic act. And instead of going after the cause, they're talking about gun control. But the funny thing is, or the sad thing is, that Australia has some of the toughest gun control in the world. They have this Firearms Act that was passed in 96. And automatic and semi-automatic rifles and shotguns are banned. So the guns that I hear were used would be banned. There was a mandatory buyback and amnesty program. So 650,000 guns were destructed, about a third of private gun stock at the time. The rest of the firearms are required to be registered, owners to be licensed. 28-day waiting periods for purchases. Okay. Explicitly stated self-defense is not a genuine reason to own a firearm. There's no privilege on conditional public safety, right? None of this. So here they've got this large annual gathering of Jewish people. Happens every year. It's a permanent event. I looked it up. The government knows about it. Local police know about it. Everybody knows about it. And not only are the victims unarmed, because that's what happens, right? We have a gun-free society. The bad guys still have guns. Imagine that. They still are able to have guns. Who doesn't have a gun? Bystanders. The bystanders are forced to take down an armed terrorist with his bare hands. This is the same thing as Brown University, right? What do we have at Brown? Brown is another gun-free zone. Brown has very strict no-gun policy on campus. I mean, it's pretty similar to every university, every school. I mean, you really cannot bring a gun on campus unless you're a police officer or unless you're part of campus security, campus police. People always ask, all these shootings in schools, right? There's a lot of places in Vegas, I bring up Las Vegas. There's a lot of guns in Nevada. There's a lot of places in Vegas I simply wouldn't go to and start to, open fire because I get taken out pretty quickly. All right. I mean, what happens when you have governments that on one hand don't protect you and then strip you of your right to defend yourself? It's almost as if they want you to die. And I think Brown University, if we're going to talk about that shooting for a moment, I think Brown University is in an absolute world of legal hurt. I mean, the fact that none of these cameras are working, the fact that security didn't get out there, the fact that they couldn't even, respond in time to catch the perpetrator. This is true. This is just horrifying. And one thing I want you to watch, both with the Australia shooting, the Bondi Beach shooting, and the Brown University shootings, I want you to watch how long it takes really for them to issue a formal announcement of what the motives are. I believe the Brown people, the Rhode Island police there, are playing, hide the ball on this because, well, they're circulating a picture. I don't think that they found the person. It doesn't seem like they have. But watch them play hide the ball on this. And I give you as an example, the Nashville shooting. Remember this? This was the trans young lady who was who went in and went to the Christian school and shot a bunch of people. And the Biden Department of Justice And the authorities out in it, they hid this. They hid it. How long did it take them? How long did it take them to, well, the shooting happened, was it March of 23? And the police officially released the motive in April of 2025, more than 2 years after the attack. The minute that they sense that there's going to be some outrage and pushback, the minute that they do, that is when leftist government types hide motive, or they begin talking very loudly about gun control. They want to make it about gun control in every case. I don't know. There have been plenty of shootings, horrific shootings, and knifings and other mass murder events that happen in some of the toughest gun jurisdictions in the world. So this stuff it can happen, is my point. Even where the left would get their way, but the purpose, the end purpose of the anti-Second Amendment group is that they want us out there. They want us out there in harm's way. I'm convinced of it. And again, they certainly are not going to step up and protect us. A school like Brown, if you're going to leave people out there exposed, and we're going to find out more, I think, in the coming days and weeks about prior threats against this young woman that was the vice president of the college Republicans on Brown. Guarantee you she had threats on her life. I guarantee you. And I guarantee you that the university didn't do much to help her. And that is at least one of the things that they're trying to play hide the ball on right now, realizing they've got a major, major problem on their hands. Sam Mirejovsky here behind the What's Right microphone. Be back in a moment. Now, this stuff about the FBI, none of this surprises me, obviously. Big news today that the FBI agents working the Mar-a-Lago raid case did not believe there was probable cause to raid Trump's residence. Sam Mirejovsky here behind the What's Right microphone. That's right. These are being described by some as bombshell files. We always knew this. Here's a quote. Here's a quote from some of the records. We haven't generated any new facts. This is an FBI agent. But keep being given a draft after draft, meaning of the search warrant. After draft, one official in the FBI's Washington field office groused in a July 13th 22 phone email. Absent a witness coming forward with recent information about classified on site, at what point is it fair to table this? Now, the reason it didn't get tabled is because the Biden Department of Justice was determined to get Trump. One top official said, frankly, I don't give a damn about the optics. Wow. All right. This is what's wild. Now, August, right? This was July that the agents were in mutiny over this. In August, Merrick Garland, after the raid, holds a press conference. Remember this? Here's a little flashback to what he said.
Faithful adherence to the rule of law is the bedrock principle of the Justice Department and of our democracy. Upholding the rule of law means applying the law evenly, without fear or favor. Under my watch, that is precisely what the Justice Department is doing. All Americans are entitled to the even-handed application of the law, to due process of the law, and to the presumption of innocence. Much of our work is by necessity conducted out of the public eye. We do that to protect the constitutional rights of all Americans and to protect the integrity of our investigations. Federal law, long-standing department rules, and our ethical obligations prevent me from providing further details as to the basis of the search at this time.
No one's above the law. We treat everybody evenly. And yet now, FBI agents working the case, again, during the Biden administration at the Washington field office, like, hey, we don't have anything here. This is like the thinnest case ever. There's no basis for a warrant, no probable cause, which is actually a very low standard required to initiate to get a warrant. It's a reasonable suspicion. Like it's a low bar. I mean, it's reachable, but you need something. They didn't have anything. They had to take a bunch of documents, put them in jackets. Remember, this is always the photograph that was taken at the time of a bunch of stuff strewn about Trump's office and his bathroom at Mar-a-Lago that had all the classified stuff. They brought those cover sheets with them. This whole thing was cooked up from top to bottom. I'm telling you, going into next year, a big story is going to be a shift in perception over Trump-Russia collusion, over I'm convinced, January 6th. The documents case, right? All of this, right? I mean, Trump's image as it's been perceived by, I would say this, going into the election, pre-election, most Americans probably felt like, yeah, you know what, he did something. Yeah, you know, I maybe they're going too far, but there's something here. I don't think they feel that way anymore. I think this is only going to get worse for Team Biden. Well, I mean, the house of cards is going to begin to fall. I'm not saying, look, it's, again, very tough to get convictions. The Mar-a-Lago case, though, is going to get tried down in Florida. I mean, if there are criminal charges filed on people affiliated with this, those cases will be filed in Florida. Now, that's where something could happen. Because Jack Smith was in D.C. today behind closed doors. He got in there. He said, "You know what? We had him dead to rights. We had Trump dead to rights. We proved that he was engaged in an illegal, concerted effort to overthrow the government of the United States." Okay, that's all nonsense. And if I were the libs, and I said this at the time, their mistake was going down to Florida. Arctic frost. Do you remember why they called it this? Where did Arctic frost? It has to do with Florida. Arctic frost is what takes out an orange crop. Arctic frost is what the oranges freeze over. You know, it can get very cold in Florida in the winter. Believe it or not, it doesn't happen often, but it could take out an entire orange crop, and it's bad. And that's what they wanted to do. They wanted to take out the entire Orange Man operation down in Florida. Even in the name, you know there was vindictiveness and political targeting intended by the Biden people. No, folks, I'm telling you. But because the nexus of that criminal activity that Jack Smith and others engaged in to go after Trump, because it happened in Florida, the cases will all get filed down there. And that's significant. That's significant. So I'm telling you, that's going to be one of the big news stories of 2026. Mark my words. All of this has been percolating this year. Incidentally, don't know if you saw this, Dan Bongino announcing that he's going to be leaving in January. So he's the deputy director of the FBI. He's being replaced by his deputy that started back in September, Bongino wants to go back to podcasting, I guess. I don't know what to make of this. People are going to leave for different reasons. And I don't believe much of what I read in the mainstream media about stuff going on inside, palace intrigue inside the administration. If you believe what the Washington Post says and the New York Times says about this, it's conflict with Pam Bondi. I think eventually we'll know more about it. I'm not entirely sure that's the whole story. And also remember this, right? I mean, Bongino is going to go back to a lucrative podcasting deal. You do a year of public service, you get paid peanuts, and some people, you run out of money, right? You got a mortgage, you got expenses. Working in DC on DC, salaries not always a great thing, unless of course you got a little side hustle through your second cousin twice removed where you funnel some USAID in their pocket, a cool couple million a year, and you get a little kickback to your wife or whatever. That is one way to make ends meet in the District of Columbia. Sam Mirejovsky here. Great to be with you today. I will see you again mañana. All right. I'm sure we'll have more to talk about then. Take care, folks.